In the opening months of 2026, the Kremlin's propaganda machine spun a narrative of absolute inevitability. The messaging broadcasted from Moscow was clear: a massive multi-axis spring offensive would finally shatter the Ukrainian lines, force the collapse of the Donbas, and bring Kyiv to its knees. But in modern warfare narrative, rarely survives the reality of attrition. As we approach the midpoint of 2026, Vladimir Putin's highly anticipated spring offensive has not just stalled, it has fundamentally collapsed. While Russian commanders buried their heads in bureaucratic denials, Ukraine executed a quiet, technologically devastating counter-strategy, a strategy that effectively removed over 100,000 Russian troops from the operational map. The momentum on the battlefield has shifted completely. To understand how a supposedly superior military superpower found itself frozen in place, we must look beyond the political rhetoric and analyze the hard empirical data emerging from the front lines. On June 4th, 2026, exactly 358 days after the official creation of Ukraine's Unmanned Systems Forces, or USF, Robert Brovdy, the commander of the notorious Magyar's Birds unit, confirmed a catastrophic milestone for the Russian armed forces. Through meticulously verified data, Ukraine's drone units surpassed 100,000 confirmed irretrievable and sanitary enemy casualties. To put this number into perspective, when Russia launched its full-scale invasion in February 2022, Putin committed an initial strike force of approximately 180,000 personnel across 4 primary axes of advance. In just 1 year, a single specialized Ukrainian branch utilizing low-cost mass-produced robotics has neutralized more than half the equivalent of that original invasion force. This is no longer a war of traditional maneuvering, it is a war of algorithmic liquidation. The sudden shift in the war's trajectory can be traced back to a critical institutional decision made on June 11, 2025. Before this date, Ukraine's use of unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, was highly effective but deeply decentralized. Individual brigades operated their own drone teams, often competing for resources and lacking a unified doctrine. The establishment of the USF changed everything. It brought systemization, centralized command and control, real-time data sharing, and a formalized strategy. What Russia faced in 2026 was no longer hobbyists with modified quadcopters. They were facing a highly synchronized industrial-scale robotic army. In classical military doctrine, artillery is the backbone of Russian offensive operations. It is the tool used to suppress defenders and clear a path for infantry advances. By systematically hunting down Russian artillery pieces in the deep rear, Ukrainian drone networks have effectively decapitated Russia's tactical fire support. Furthermore, the USF targeted Russia's soft underbelly, destroying 26,430 logistics and transport vehicles. Without fuel, ammunition, and rations, frontline Russian units are left isolated, exposed, and highly vulnerable. While the loss of hardware is crippling for Moscow's defense industry, the human cost is structurally unsustainable. Out of the 100,082 casualties officially claimed by the USF drone Strikes 53,477 were categorized as killed in action, while 46,605 were wounded. For military historians and strategic analysts, this specific ratio is deeply alarming. In modern warfare, the statistical norm for casualties historically favors the wounded by a wide margin. A study by the Dupuy Institute analyzing major 20th century conflicts reveals a consistent pattern. In World War I, the ratio stood at 3.83 wounded for every 1 soldier killed. In World War II, it was 2.41 to 1. The Korean War saw 2.8, Vietnam averaged 3.14, and during the post-9/11 conflict in Afghanistan, the U.S. military maintained a ratio of nearly 10 wounded to every single fatality thanks to advanced field medicine and rapid evacuation. Russia's casualty ratio under the pressure of Ukrainian drone warfare is completely inverted. They are experiencing more fatalities than survivable injuries. Left abandoned in the gray zones without immediate medical intervention, treatable injuries rapidly turn fatal. Ukraine has engineered a highly automated, hyper-efficient killing machine, and the USF has already announced its operational objective for the next 12 months to double these numbers and inflict another 200,000 casualties. To evaluate the success of any military offensive, one must weigh the territory gained against the resources expended. By this metric, Russia's 2026 spring campaign is a historic failure. When factoring out the temporary, highly fluid movements in unfortified gray zones, Russia actually suffered a net territorial loss. In April alone, Russia recorded a net loss of 116 square kilometers. In May, that deficit widened significantly to a net loss of 281 square kilometers. This marks the lowest operational point for the Russian military since the major Ukrainian counteroffensives of late 2023. Moscow is not facing a stalemate. It is actively losing ground while burning through its remaining mechanized reserves. Sensing the collapse of their ground momentum, the Russian High Command resorted to its preferred asymmetric alternative terror bombing. As the frontline offensive crumbled, Russia intensified its long-range missile and Shahed drone strikes against civilian infrastructure and population centers like Kyiv, occasionally launching up to 1,500 drones in a single consolidated wave. To the casual observer, these massive aerial barrages look like a demonstration of strategic dominance. But a deeper military analysis reveals the exact opposite. These long-range strikes are a resource-intensive diversion, a desperate attempt to project strength and force Kyiv to reallocate its air defense assets away from the front lines. It is the frantic gasp of an offensive doctrine that has run out of conventional options on the ground. The core catalyst behind Ukraine's tactical dominance is the evolutionary expansion of its kill zones. In 2026, that buffer no longer exists. Through the introduction of a new generation of medium-range signal-resistant strike drones, Ukraine has supercharged its doctrine. The USF has expanded the active combat kill zone to a depth of up to 100 kilometers into the Russian rear. We are seeing the strategic consequences of this expansion play out across multiple sectors. In the Luhansk axis, the 3rd Army Corps, of Ukraine has established absolute aerial supremacy over occupied territories, routinely hunting down Russian electronic warfare units that were previously deemed out of reach. In the Donetsk sector, Ukrainian long-range loitering munitions have established direct fire control over the Donetsk International Airport, a vital logistical node, drone launching hub, and storage site for the Russian army. Across the southern front, the USF has effectively choked off large sections of the R280 highway, the critical land bridge connecting mainland Russia to occupied Crimea. By stretching the lethal zone to 100 kilometers, Ukraine has fundamentally broken the mechanics of Russian military logistics. Russian forces can no longer establish secure forward operating bases, ammunition dumps, or fuel depots anywhere near the combat theater. Every single vehicle attempting to resupply the front line must run a 100-kilometer gauntlet of relentless, precise aerial bombardment. Through the cloud-based Delta system, real-time satellite data is fused with live telemetry from thousands of tactical reconnaissance drones. This geospatial intelligence is beamed directly to the smartphones and tablets of individual drone operators on the front lines. The results are revolutionary. The delivery time for actionable geospatial intelligence has dropped by an astonishing 90%. A Russian armored column or artillery piece, spotted by a satellite or a scout drone, can now be targeted and engaged by an FPV strike team within minutes. This marks the first time in military history that commercial space assets have been directly integrated into real-time, small-unit tactical decision-making. While Ukraine adapts at an exponential rate, Russia's centralized top-down command structure remains slow and rigid. This cognitive gap is beginning to trigger massive political and social fractures inside the Russian Federation itself. Yet Vladimir Putin cannot stop. He has repeatedly rejected peace frameworks, knowing that any settlement reached under current conditions would cement his invasion as one of the greatest strategic blunders in modern history, destroying his historical legacy. As Ukraine continues to scale its production toward an estimated 7 million drones per year, the digital noose around the Russian military is tightening. The unmanned systems forces have transformed the rules of engagement. What we are witnessing in 2026 is not just the defense of a nation, it is the dawn of fully integrated robotic warfare, and Russia's industrial-era army is entirely unprepared for the consequences. Thank you for watching. If you want to see exactly how Ukraine achieved total aerial dominance over the occupied territories of Luhansk, click on the video on your screen right now. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you in the next analysis.